On a half-acre outside Joplin, Missouri, a bicycle wheel spins on a steel post above a chain-link fence. Metal vanes catch the breeze, and a hub dynamo hums, turning wind into current. The rig cost $47. The owner has not paid for shed lighting in 3 years. By the end of this video, you will discover why the grid buried this technology and how $50 puts it in your hands. That bicycle wheel is already an energy machine. If you ever rode a bike at night with one of those old bottle dynamos pressed against the tire, you felt it. The headlight flickered on and your legs worked harder. That resistance was electricity being born. Rotation in, current out. The hub dynamo sealed inside a modern bicycle wheel does the same thing, and it does not care whether the rotation comes from your legs or from the wind. The equation behind wind power is simple. Power equals 1/2 times air density times swept area times wind speed cubed times a power coefficient times generator efficiency. Air density is the weight of breeze against your palm out a truck window. Swept area is the circle the wheel traces. Wind speed cubed is the hidden leverage. Double the breeze and available power multiplies by 8. In 1919, a German physicist named Albert Betz proved no turbine can capture more than 59.3% of the wind passing through it. A commercial 3-blade turbine captures 35 to 45%. A well-built bicycle wheel captures 15 to 25%. That is not failure. That is physics within honest constraints. Now, here are the real numbers. At 10 miles per hour average wind, you get 5 to 12 watts continuous. At 15 miles per hour, 15 to 30 watts. At 20 miles per hour, 40 to 80 watts. This will not run your refrigerator. Let me be clear. It will light a shed. It will charge your phone daily. It will keep a 12-volt battery topped off for emergencies. And it will do all of that without a bill. $50 in materials, roughly 50 to 80 kilowatt hours per year in moderate wind. By year 5, the amortized cost drops below 15 cents per kilowatt hour. By year 10, below 8 cents. The average American pays 17 cents, and that rate climbs every year. The bicycle wheel crosses grid parity around year 6. After that, every kilowatt hour is free. The utility sends a bill every 30 days for life. The bicycle wheel sends nothing. But the real question is not whether this physics works, it is why a teenager on a Montana ranch figured this out over 100 years ago and nobody told you. In 1887, in the village of Marykirk, Scotland, a professor named James Blythe bolted cloth sails to a vertical spindle in his garden. That contraption charged accumulators that lit his home. Blythe offered surplus electricity to his neighbors. They refused, calling electricity the work of the devil. His turbine looked like a spoked wheel with fabric panels. He published his findings in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. The world ignored him. 1 year later, in Cleveland, Ohio, an industrialist named Charles F. Brush erected a 60-foot tower holding a rotor 56 feet across. 12 kilowatts, 408 batteries in his basement. That system powered his mansion for 20 years. Brush was already wealthy. He did it because the wind was free and the physics was obvious. In 1891, in Askov, Denmark, a meteorologist named Paul Lacour built wind-driven generators for his rural research station and opened the first wind power training program in history. Denmark today generates more than half its electricity from wind. That tradition traces to one man who looked at the breeze and saw watts. I drove out to central Montana last spring looking for what was left of the Jacobs legacy. The wind hits you the moment you step out of the truck. Constant, pressing against your chest like a hand. Marcellus Jacobs was born here in 1903 on a ranch 50 miles from the nearest power line. As a teenager, he mounted bicycle wheels and salvaged propellers on poles and wired them to batteries. By 1927, he founded the Jacobs Wind Electric Company in Minneapolis, producing turbines rated at 1.8 to 3 kilowatts. He sold roughly 30,000 units across the Great Plains. In 1933, Admiral Byrd hauled a Jacobs turbine to Antarctica, where it powered the Little America base through polar winters. Some units from the 30s were still spinning in the 60s. His career started with a bicycle wheel on a fence post, and then the government erased it. In 2001, in Kasungu, Malawi, a 14-year-old named William Kamkwamba walked to his village library during a famine. He found a textbook. He tore apart a bicycle. He scavenged a tractor fan blade and PVC pipes and used rubber sandals as bearings. 12 watts, 4 bulbs, and a radio. A child with a bicycle wheel and a junkyard did in an afternoon what the American electrical industry spends billions making sure you never attempt. Jacobs sold 30,000 turbines. Kamkwamba lit a village. So what happened? Where did the knowledge go? In 1935, President Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 7037 in Washington, D.C., creating the Rural Electrification Administration. The stated purpose was bringing electricity to every farm in America. The unstated consequence was making individual generation pointless. REA administrators approved subsidized transmission lines no private generator could match. By the 50s, families across Montana and Kansas and the Dakotas were pulling turbines off towers. Thousands of Jacobs units stripped for parts or rusting in fence rows. The company ceased production in 1957, not because the turbines failed, because a $500 machine running for free could not compete with a $0 hookup backed by federal loans. The knowledge gap was total. One generation built wind turbines on every farm from Montana to Texas. The next never knew they existed. Trade schools in Topeka and Omaha dropped small wind by the 60s. By 1970, you could earn an electrical engineering degree at Kansas State without hearing the name Marcellus Jacobs. Today, the barriers are administrative, not technical. Residential zoning enforces 35-foot height limits. Homeowners Association bylaws from Scottsdale to Raleigh prohibit turbines on aesthetic grounds. UL certification costs $50,000 to $100,000 per turbine model. That testing process was built for factory products. A $50 bicycle wheel cannot pass through that gate. The Section 48 investment tax credit technically applies to small wind, but the filing costs more than the turbine. The American Wind Energy Association, now called AEI, lobbies exclusively for utility scale and has never once spoken for the version that fits in a backyard. There is no conspiracy. There is simply no profit in a machine built from a thrift store bicycle. A $50 device generating free power for decades cannot sustain an industry built on monthly billing. But the physics never stopped working, and in places where the grid never reached, people never stopped building. On the Scorig Peninsula in the Scottish Highlands, a community has lived off-grid since the 1970s. An engineer named Hugh Pigott has spent decades publishing open-source wind turbine plans built in over 30 countries. His simplest designs use bicycle wheels and car alternators, producing 50 to 200 watts for under $100. His work is cited in peer-reviewed research from Edinburgh to Nairobi. Denmark generates over 50% of its electricity from wind, but the tradition started with Lacour and community-owned turbines in village fields. That model proved distributed small wind could scale. America chose centralized generation controlled by utilities billing monthly. In Malawi, the legacy of Kamkwamba is not a story. It is infrastructure. His bicycle turbine design has been replicated thousands of times across sub-Saharan Africa. The Moving Windmills project has built over a dozen systems in Kasungu alone. The World Bank cites his design as a model for off-grid electrification. From 2010 to 2019, the British government ran a feed-in tariff paying homeowners for microgeneration, including small wind. For 9 years, the UK recognized what American policy refuses to. Even modest household generation has value when multiplied across millions of homes. The program was closed in 2019 with no replacement. A bicycle wheel turbine will never replace the grid. It generates watts, not kilowatts. But Kamkwamba lit a village with 12. Piggott sustains a community with 200. Jacobs powered Antarctica with 2,500. The scale is modest. The principle is the same, and it works wherever wind blows. Here is the detail that ties this story together. Marcellus Jacobs gave testimony before the United States Senate Committee on Commerce in 1974. He was 71 years old. He told the senators his turbines had collectively generated over 1 billion kilowatt hours on American farms before the REA made them obsolete. 1 billion kilowatt hours from machines that started as bicycle wheels on fence posts. The senators thanked him. No legislation followed. Now here is how you build one for $50. The wheel. Any 26-inch bicycle wheel with a sealed bearing hub. Thrift stores, yard sales, trash day, $5 to $15 or free. Grab it by the axle and spin. If it hums and coasts, the bearings are good. If it grinds, keep looking. A wheel with a built-in Shimano or Schmidt hub dynamo is the ideal find. That one component is both your rotor and your generator. The vanes, sheet metal or aluminum flashing from any hardware store. Cut panels roughly 8 inches wide. Bolt or zip tie them between spoke sets angled 15 to 20 degrees from the plane of the wheel. 6 to 8 vanes evenly spaced. The geometry does not need to be perfect. It needs to be roughly symmetrical and firmly attached. The generator. If the hub has a built-in dynamo, wire it through a bridge rectifier to convert alternating current to direct current, then to a charge controller and a 12-volt deep cycle battery. $15 to $20 in parts. If the wheel has no dynamo, mount a small permanent magnet direct current motor against the tire with a friction roller. The tire spins the roller spins the motor. Less efficient but functional and cheap. The mount. A 10-foot steel pipe or a pressure-treated 4x4 concreted into the ground. The wheel needs to clear fence height and sit above building turbulence. A pipe fitting at the top acts as a yaw bearing, letting the assembly pivot with the wind. A tail vane cut from scrap plywood keeps it aimed into the breeze. The honest numbers. At 10 miles per hour average wind, expect 5 to 12 watts continuous. 3 to 8 LED lights running at once, 1 to 2 phone charges per day, a radio that never stops, a 12-volt battery that stays ready for the next outage. This will not run your air conditioner or heat your water. If your yard is walled in by houses and fences on every side, you may not get enough consistent wind. The physics does not lie, and neither does this video, but in an open yard with steady breeze, this machine gives you something no utility company can: light and communication. That belong to you. No meter, no monthly envelope, no dependency. Picture that thrift store bicycle one more time. $6, a sealed hub, spokes that carried someone to work for years, now leaning between ceramic lamps and old picture frames. Nobody in that store knows the rear wheel is a power plant. Marcellus Jacobs knew. He started with a wheel like that on a Montana ranch and built an industry that powered 30,000 farms. The REA killed his company. Zoning codes buried the knowledge. Certification costs locked the door. The grid kept sending the bill. The wind does not send a bill. It does not need a permit or a certification sticker or an interconnection agreement. It blows across your yard every day, carrying energy that belongs to nobody and costs nothing. A $50 bicycle wheel is everything you need to turn it into light. Jacobs started here. Kamkwamba started here. You can start here this weekend. The breeze was waiting. It was always waiting.